Yo, if you have any questions on any of the fighters surrounding this week's Contender Series, you've come to the right place, guys. All right, we're going to be going over Dana White's Contender Series, week number 7. We have some, what seems like maybe, some pretty good fighters on here. Not all of them. I don't really love all the tape I've seen. And I was hit with the surprise of Torres just earlier. I really got on here. I thought I'm gonna make this video, and Robbie Ring is gone. This bout was canceled. I did just a slight dive to see if I found any reason as to why that bout was canceled. I'm not really sure. Maybe they're rescheduling Robbie for a different opponent. Time will tell, because as of right now, I have no idea what's actually going on with Robbie Ring. It just says canceled. It doesn't give an actual reason as to why. And then if you do just like a little dive, like I just looked his name up, and it didn't really give me any results as far as anything recent. So, it is what it is. But let's go ahead and dive right into the card. We got Javier Reyes going against Justice Torres. Let's look at the notes of these guys, and let me get myself out of the way. We have just an absolute mess over here. Where is everyone? Okay, here we are. Javier Reyes, this guy is, he's a fairly light-footed striker. He shows decent bounce, but he tends to move backwards. Ooh, messed that up. Decent bounce, but tends to be pretty grounded with good footwork. So he's a guy that, when you look at his foundation, he's a guy that will show some bounce. He'll move around a little bit, but because he tends to be grounded, he is a guy that constantly moves his feet. He uses lateral movement. He'll kind of move around the cage, constant footwork. But while he does possess some bounce, it's not something he regularly does. It's more a little bit flat-footed with some footwork in there, and moves around relatively well. The guy does carry his hands a bit low, so I don't love that, but he does show some decent head movement. Has a decent left jab and solid teep. He can be a little bit low volume at range. Does have some takedown ability. Not sure it's very good. I question that because just the way it looks technically doesn't look super great. And then you kind of question some of the level of competition he's been against. So he has fought in some reasonably reputable promotions, but the level of competition isn't always great. Seems to have a pretty nice ground game. He scrambles and transitions pretty well. He has a good back take, uses nice ground and pound, and he will go for the rear naked choke pretty aggressively. When he'll use that ground and pound, he'll try to soften him up, and he will constantly look to get that RNC. So if he does get to that position, it's pretty likely that that's something you'll see. And then his opponent on the other side, Justice, this guy is, he's a flat-footed pressure striker. Shows some bounce. Hold on, sorry. It's because I get mixed up. I'm reading multiple things. Flat-footed pressure striker, easy to get to. This guy doesn't move backwards much. He has a solid right jab, decent backside low kicks, and he's a bit of a madman in the pocket. It's probably where he's his best, but it's a volatile way to fight. You're risking it. You're standing there throwing crazy shots like that. Seems to have pretty good power. He'll throw wild hooks and elbows. Takedown defense doesn't look great. He does seem to have decent balance, and he will stuff the head, but he can get taken down. He stays busy on the ground, but doesn't have a great get-up game. And then, just for a little bit of reference, we'll hop over here. We'll look at, 21-5 to 12-3. You know, the records are what they are. Trust me, I'm not one of the people that look at the records. It doesn't say the whole story. You know, I don't even think a lot of statistics in MMA really tell the whole story. I'm not one of the people that's like, oh, he landed more punches or this or that. You know, fighting is a round by round sport. You know, so you can't look at the striking numbers at the end of a fight and go, oh yeah, he won this because he outlanded him. It just doesn't work that way. And trust me, I'm a stat guy. I really am. But when it comes to MMA, it's just a different world. So, yeah, this guy, when you look at his record just a little bit, you know, he's lost every way. He's won every way. You know, 2-2 in LFA, 5-0 in Combate Global, 4-0 in LFC. I don't even know what that is, but and then 1-2 in Combate Americas. And like I said, these Combate promotions, they're pretty reputable. Like I don't have an issue with these places. It doesn't mean all of their fighters are great, but they are spitting out quite a bit of good talent. And he's fought some pretty good guys. You know, there was Larian, or that's probably not how you pronounce his name, but Lehian. He just fought on Contender Series and looked pretty good. Good athlete, powerful guy. Yeah, so I think he's a pretty good fighter, but he's got holes. Okay, and then when you look at his opponent, Justice on the other side, this is a guy, to me, the hole is glaring. He's got a real deficiency on the ground. He doesn't seem like somebody that's going to be easy to submit, but he's a guy that you can take down and you can kind of, he will lose minutes there. He's a little too willing to just kind of be there. Yeah, he works, but, you know, his get-up game is not great. He's not that urgent. I just don't love that. And the fact that he's so flat-footed, I mean, this guy's super easy to get to him. I mean, you see people get to this guy's hips way too easily. And, you know, his initial takedown defenses, it's okay. He does some nice things, but it's just not that pretty. There's a lot of things he could do better, in my opinion, and I just don't love what I see from him in that space. And then when you look at his level of competition, it's a lot different, because this guy's fought, and I'm not even sure. I know he's fought in Fury. Yeah, Fury, 12-3. I mean, he's been in Fury for a while. I just think he's a guy that can lose minutes. You know, when you're that easy to take down, he's really banking on. I don't like this guy's style. And this is me, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, because I do think that he's a pretty strong guy. He probably hits pretty hard. You know, technically maybe he's got some decent stuff going on, but it's his tendencies that just kill him. Tends to be flat-footed, easy to get to, right? Tends to lack urgency getting back up, loses minutes. Tends to do his best work offensively in the pocket by throwing like wild looping hooks and elbows. And yeah, it's something that's been able to win him fights at just a tier below, you know, Fury. I mean, I'm not sure that this is the fight that's necessarily it's going to show up in. I mean, obviously he's lost 3 decisions already. Well, is it 3 decisions? Yeah, so he's already lost 3 decisions. Never been finished. This is an interesting fight. So honestly, I'm going to lean with the side of Javier. And it's not with a ton of confidence, because let's be honest, the thing is while I don't love a lot of the things I see on Torres, he does throw wild. If he can keep it on the feet, he will throw, and he does seem to have relatively decent power. And Javier just keeps his hands down, you know, a little bit arrogant with it. So But I do think Javier is the better fighter. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on in this fight. I take Javier Reyes. I think he wins this fight. Be interesting to see how these guys match up physically at the weigh-ins. I just can't be too confident with like what the actual outcome of this fight's going to be. I would think that it's probably going to go I don't know. If the line's set at 1.5, I would feel okay with maybe an over on a 1.5. But why you're just playing with fire? I'm gonna come in there with my hands down and say, "Oh, I'm gonna go the round and a half," or this other guy. Yeah, I'm just gonna go Reyes. Don't love it, but I do think he wins the fight. And then the next bout we have Dani Barbir going against Mantas. Should I try this? Kondratavicius. Hey, that sounded okay. But was it? I don't know. Let's look at these guys' notes. See what we can find out about these guys. I think Dani's probably the A side, if I had to guess. Let's check it out. He's a light-footed striker. He shows good bounce using measured pressure and range management. Carries a high guard. Nice left jab, right cross. Throws a heavy, well-timed right overhand. He's an aggressive, he has an aggressive wrestling and grappling style. So, and he will use brutal ground and pound to snatch up chokes. And so he's not a guy that just sits there and fishes for submissions. It's more like just beat on you, and then if you leave your neck out, he just snatches it up. And then his opponent, light-footed striker, shows solid bounce using measured pressure, but he lacks range management. Decent left jab, carries a decent guard, but lacks any real head movement. Has a powerful overhand right. Emotional fighter. I put that because it seems like as you see him get hit, he really kind of, picks up the pace a little bit. It seems like he is pretty emotionally invested, or just he reacts emotionally. At the highest level, it's not really something you want to see because it could get you in trouble against better fighters. He does look fairly strong in the clinch. Shows pretty good balance and leverage. You'll see that he will leverage he'll try to get to a spot of leverage by dropping to maintain control and stuff, especially with his cage push. He's a solid clinch player. Willing brawler, fights with good pace and seems to have a good chin. Like I said, I think Dani is probably this A side if I had to guess. I think he looks a little bit better. On the feet, you're going to see that he's probably got a pretty good advantage. Probably a little bit of speed. Technically, just a little bit better. And then, yeah, it'll be an interesting fight. I would just say the under on this one more than likely. You got a 7-0 against 7-1. We have a lot of question marks on him as far as age and stuff goes. Hasn't fought the greatest level of competition, that's for sure. But I think he looks pretty good. And technically, he's not too bad. Stand-up's okay. And then when we look at Mantas, He's got the one submission loss. Rear naked choke. I mean, I guess, yeah, he looks okay. You know, the film is what it is. Unfortunately, you know, I can't see every single fight, but I think that, like I said, Dani's A side probably wins it. More than likely, this fight doesn't see the cards, but it could. And I think that Dani's going to be better on the feet. And because of Mantas just kind of being, like I said, maybe a little bit emotional, he's going to be willing to try to brawl with him. And I don't think, because I think that Dani's just like I said, because he's going to have the technical advantage on him, I think that he should be able to kind of win that stand-up battle. And it'll be interesting to see these two guys face off and see how they match up physically, because Mantas does, like I said, he does show pretty good strength, and he uses leverage in clinching scenarios. So he definitely shows the ability to kind of maybe stall the fight a bit and kind of control. So that will be an interesting aspect of this fight. And if Dani is quite a bit bigger physically, then, I mean, these are things that you don't really know. You haven't seen them stand by each other. So that'll definitely be interesting to see. But I'm going to side with Dani on this. I do think that he wins the fight. And it's probably by finish, but it could go long as well. Now, our next fight, we have... Brahyan Zurcher going against... This is another tough one for me. Murtazali Magomedov. Yeah, this fighting film on this guy was a little bit weird. I think I seen... What was it? I've seen some grappling matches, I think. Seen a little bit of MMA on him. And I feel like the promotion he was fighting in was... Yeah, I guess those last few, I'm not sure what those were. But a lot of the stuff I seen was the WEF. So it was a little bit, a few years ago. Maybe he's made improvements, things that I haven't seen. Let's look at their notes. I thought he was all right. I wasn't overly impressed with him, to be honest. But let's look at Brahyan first. Brahyan is a fairly, I put fairly like question mark because he does look pretty light-footed. I'm just a little unsure on that, but he definitely does show to be somewhat light on his feet. Shows pretty good bounce with solid footwork. Seems to have a kick-heavy attack at range. Throws heavy backside kicks, low, deep, and high. Decent 1-2, but tends to throw wide power punches. Has pretty good head movement in the pocket. Has some takedown ability, body lock trips. He scrambles at a pretty high level. He stays busy, makes opponents work. He has sufficient ground and pound. Good back take to RNC. I thought this guy looked like, when I looked at him, I thought this guy's definitely got a winning style. The boxing, him being a little bit more technical with his boxing, I think would help him, especially in the UFC as he moves up. But all in all, I think that he's definitely got a winning style. I liked what I've seen from him. And then when we look at his opponent, Magomedov, this guy's a light-footed striker. He shows good bounce with a bit of footwork. Guard looks decent-ish. Long-range weapons, uses the jab, cross, and teep. Mostly looks uncomfortable on the feet and leaves his chin in the air at times. He has some wrestling and grappling ability. He looks really strong, but I wasn't overly impressed with his grappling. Yeah, the notes are a little vague. Like I said, the amount of film and in the fights that I got to watch on this guy were, not necessarily what I would have liked to have seen. But I came away with it feeling like, on his feet, yeah, he shows a little bit of movement, but it's not like technical. He doesn't have great footwork. He'll put himself in bad spots with his feet. So his striking defense right away is not great just by where his feet lead him. And, his striking wasn't overly impressive either. It wasn't devastating. It wasn't nothing too crazy. But I do like that he kind of fights along with the longer weapons, the jab, cross, and teep. Those are all weapons that, you're trying to keep people at distance a little bit. So I don't mind that because of his skill set. And, yeah, I think he's a guy that, I don't know. I don't really walk away from even really knowing. Does he just want to grapple? I mean, I don't even really know. I don't think he's really that great in either position, honestly. So because of that, I'm obviously going to lean with Brahyan. I think Zurcher's ready. I think he's the much better fighter here. Let's pull these guys up. Yeah, I think Zurcher's the guy. Yeah, I've been fighting in the PFL. He also fought in Combate. Is that global? It's surprising he lost that much in his amateur, and then he's going on to rip off like 9 straight wins with no losses. Not the maybe greatest level of competition, but nonetheless, I would say his level of competition's been a little bit better than Magomedov's. And maybe I could be surprised by this guy, because like I said, the amount of film is not really, it wasn't what I was hoping to get, but I took what I could find. Like I said, watched a little bit of the grappling, watched some of his MMA that I could find, and I just walked away from it like, he's potential. Yeah, maybe he's probably got a little bit of a longer frame if I had to guess. It's just the technical aspects of most of everything he did. I was not in love with it. I was not in love with his striking. I didn't like a lot of the stuff he was doing on the feet. And in the grappling, I didn't love a lot of that stuff too. He looked strong. But aside from that, I wasn't in awe over this guy. So I think he's side B, and I go with Zurcher. I'm just going to move on. Sofia, Montenegro. Sofia going against Jeisla Chaves. So these two ladies here, this is another really, really interesting one. I'll be keeping my ears open for what other people have to say about this, because when I try to find film on Jeisla, I mean, basically nothing. I think I found a Muay Thai old, maybe amateur bout I watched, and try to get what I could from that. And really, I just couldn't find a lot. So if you found something, you have an idea of how, I don't know. I'll go over what I have, and because I can only go based off what I've seen. Let's pull these two up. And we'll just start with Sofia because she's on the top. So Sofia, she's a light-footed striker. Shows pretty good bounce with some footwork. Does seem to walk into punches. Carries a fairly high guard. Decent left jab. Boxing combinations look okay. But her timing seems off, and she keeps her head right on the center line. Has a nice backside low kick. This girl's a complete dog. She seems to get timely takedowns, well-timed entries, and will drive through. Grappling looks solid, control-based, transitions, advance. Decent blend of ground and pound to submission. So I think the girl looks okay. Ultimately, the footwork and everything is... There's things to like about it. There's things not to like about it. And her striking defense, all in all, is just pretty bad. And so she does get hit a lot. But boy, she seems to take it well. And she just finds her moments, and she settles in. She gets to places that help her win. Now, do I love it when I see a fighter getting teed off on? Absolutely not. Because you could certainly just get put to sleep. So I don't love that, and it's always hard to, want to bet or put your money behind a fighter that does that. But you do got to feel like, well, she'll fight for your money, but she could get knocked out. I mean, it's never, you don't want to be blocking punches with your face, right? So, but all in all, I thought, there's some things to like about her. Now, on the other side of this, Jeisla, she is... Let's see if we can get over here. All right. Yeah, here we go. Basically what I said. Only tape I found was a Muay Thai fight, potentially amateur. She has a very classic Muay Thai style. It's the, I don't know, I was saying like a high knee, kind of like a high knee style, like pretty plotty, grounded, lifting the leg to block kicks and stuff. She does show a bit of bounce defensively, but tends to be pretty grounded as she plods forward. She has a high guard, decent left jab, and a right cross, but tends to throw a bit wide. The lead leg kicks seem to be her best weapon. She has a solid side and teep kick. She's a decent clinch player. She looks fairly strong. Question, the level of competition is going to make you wonder. So here we are. But she is pretty active striker in the clinch. Questions around the effectiveness of her technique. But she does show pretty good aggression. Or at times, she will show pretty good aggression. Now, the reason I have questions around like the effectiveness of her technique is because if she can get you in the clinch or Muay Thai, the way she throws her knees, it just doesn't look very effective. It doesn't look like it's doing much. And so I don't love that, but she does stay busy. And it's definitely something she can improve on. So, and again, these are amateur level fights that I've seen, and a lot could have changed since then. So I have a ton of questions around this fight. I'm not going to feel confident one way or another because on one side we have a girl that we can't really see any tape on, and then on the other side we have a girl that just literally eats punches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So, but gladly does. Yeah, so when I was done, I was on the side of Sofia. I was like, oh, yeah, she eats punches, and I hate seeing that. But I really, really did like her takedowns. And just the timing on them. I really liked the timing of them. I felt like they were perfect. And then what she was able to do from that position was pretty... It was pretty good. And then I just have a lot of questions around Jeisla, so I just don't know too much about her. I haven't seen a whole lot of her. So I have major questions around her. Yeah, you almost just got to stay away from this one, but I am going to side with Sofia, but I'll be realistic in saying that Jeisla could win this fight. I mean, there's just too many things we don't know about her. And if she's not going to be eating punches, and if she's got good power, I mean, she could show us a lot in this fight, a lot of things that people just don't know too much about yet. Let's pull them up real quick. Undefeated, 28 years old. And, you know, the demo fight, that's this Gomes, that's the one I seen. Now, it wasn't these bouts. It was, you know, maybe the Julia Lima. I'm not sure. I don't even know that I could see a name on it. But, and realistically, I mean, that's only a few years ago. She's fighting absolute nobodies, though. People that don't even have wins. She hasn't fought a single fighter that has a win. That's scary. But you can only fight who they put in front of you. And so I'm not gonna bag on her too hard for that. But she certainly is can crushing, that's for sure. Sofia, 26 years old. Has she fought in any... She's fought people that have wins, though. At least a few. Yeah, I'll just take that. I think she can win the fight, but again, you have a lot of questions around her opponent, and you know, we're not gonna know anything about it until we just see. We gotta wait and see. So I'm gonna be on the side of Sofia. I think that she could edge this one out, but she could also just get knocked out. And then we go on to the main event. We got Rafael Tobias going against Jair de Oliveira. Actually, that's not right. That's Jair de Oliveira. And that may not be right. Let's pull up these guys. Rafael Tobias, this guy is a fairly light-footed striker. He shows a bit of bounce with seemingly solid footwork. Carries a high guard. Fights behind a solid left jab. Decent right cross, but tends to throw a bit wide. He doesn't move his head much. Will work towards the clinch where he can wear on his opponents. He has been able to get takedowns. Doesn't seem real efficient, but does seem to work tirelessly. Seems to advance quite well on the ground. Looking to get to mount. I've seen him in that spot quite a bit. Very methodical, control-based grappler with moderate ground and pound. And then his opponent is another guy that there was just nothing. I'm going to be looking. Has anybody found anything on this guy? I found nothing. So I don't know if you can find stuff under a different name. I'm not sure. So I'm going to go back and look. But up to this point, no film to be found. His record shows he's just been can crushing. He looks like a fairly decent athlete in his photo, but questions around size. If you go to his Tapology, you see right here, there's no way this is real. Maybe it is, but I doubt it. 5'9". 6 wins, 0 losses. 4 knockouts, 1 sub, 1 decision. And, you know, 3-5 guys, 7-7, 1-0, 0-0-0. And then when you look at these guys even a little bit closer, like, let's just go to Pedro. Doesn't have too much information on this guy, and he doesn't look as bad as some of the other ones, but let's go to this 7-7 guy. I mean, look at this guy. I seen that guy at freaking Quinceañera the other day. You know what I mean? Like, look at this guy. What? There ain't no way. This doesn't make no sense. Now, again, you can only fight who they put in front of you, but this guy's really, you know, just the big fish or a big fish in a little pond. And I'm not saying he's not good. I don't know. Honestly, I've really nothing to go based on. So maybe he's a lot better, but all this stuff just doesn't look good. Because when you go to his opponent, he's 13-1. Look at that guy. First of all, 22 years old, 13-1. He's fought in the LFA, lost that fight, so you don't love that. But and that's, you know, like I said, he doesn't move his head much, but he has pretty good footwork. He does carry a high guard. You know, he can work on his head movement a bit. Yeah, he's A-side. There's just no doubt about it to me that he's A-side. But I'm really, really interested to find out about this other guy. See if anybody else has any tidbits. If you have any information, if you know where you can find any videos, anything at all on this guy, drop it in the comments. And I'll be going through and I'll be looking for really anyone. You know, there's a handful of other people that I listen to just to kind of, you know, see what their input and their takes are on the fighter and the fights, because there's really a lot of like smart minds in the MMA world, and there's, like I said, there's a handful of people that I really truly respect their opinions out there. So we're going to do the best we can. Okay, guys, I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.